So we've made it to the end of the first season of The Acolyte, and is it just me, or has the dialogue and discourse surrounding this show been incredibly exhausting? Well, let's talk about it some more. Hi, my name is Sean, and I love to talk about movies and TV way too much. With that in mind, go ahead and join me down below in the comment section. Let me know, what did you think about the season finale of The Acolyte and the season as a whole? This will be a spoiler review, so feel free to spoil away all the details about the entire season down below in the comment section. And if you haven't watched the show yet and you're worried about spoilers, go do that, then come back and join the discussion. With that said, let's get started with the review. For me, The Acolyte is one of the most disappointing, frustrating, and disheartening things that Star Wars has ever released. And let me unpack that before I fully go into the review. So for me, I'm old enough that Phantom Menace came out when I was in high school, and generally speaking, I enjoyed it when it first came out. Same with Attack of the Clones, and after Attack of the Clones, I started to more realize, wait, these aren't as good. There's a lot of problems here. So the way it worked out, I actually went into Revenge of the Sith very cynical and was very negative on that film coming out of it, which is funny since obviously I now am pretty fond of the film, but at the time was pretty negative on it. But I was never disappointed by any of those films when they first came out, and I wouldn't even say I was disappointed when I saw Last Jedi, a movie that I'm not fond of. I was just very conflicted and torn and confused by it. And there's been a number of these shows over the last couple of years that have disappointed me, but not in the frustrating way that The Acolyte has. I've been saying for years now, publicly on this channel, that I want Star Wars to go to other time periods and explore new characters. So when they said, we're going to do The Acolyte, and it's going to be set 100 years before the prequels, we're going to have all new characters, different time period, I was very excited about that. And then they said that it was going to be a murder investigation, a murder mystery. Murder mystery in Star Wars? That sounds great. They mentioned bringing in a bunch of martial arts influences. As someone that, like, my first movie review website was a Jackie Chan fan webpage back in the 90s. I love martial arts movies, so bringing that into Star Wars, something else that I love, sounded great. And then they're like, it's also like an exploration of the Sith and understanding their perspective on things. And I went, all of that sounds really interesting. And even when you start watching the show and you start to realize that they're leaning heavily into the idea of the from a certain point of view. So we're going to show the same event from different perspectives and how everyone else perceived of it. Why did everyone leave with such different emotional reactions to the same set of events? What caused that? On paper, that sounds great. But in execution, I don't think that this show lived up to any of its potential. And I feel from beginning to end, it's a show that was just utterly confused as to its perspective, its characters, and what it was trying to do. They had these big picture ideas from a different point of view that we're going to have nuance into it. No one's fully good, no one's fully bad. Ideas that have kind of always been in Star Wars, but we're going to go real heavy on that. But the writers were not good enough to pull it off. And that's what makes it so frustrating. This is, in theory, exactly a show that I should be very excited about. That should get me excited for Star Wars and exploring new things. And instead I left like, I just don't, like, am I done with Star Wars? Is there even worth like that anymore? Like, I'm just getting so disappointed over and over again. Like, they don't know how to recruit talent to live up to the potential of the ideas that they're exploring. And the other piece to it that's just been so exhausting is the discourse surrounding the show, where almost immediately there was a branch of the internet that said, if you have there are no valid criticisms of this show. I haven't seen any valid criticisms of this show. I've just seen racism, sexism, bigotry. I saw comments saying that, multiple people on TikTok, YouTube, Twitter, all the platforms saying there's no valid criticisms. You guys are just bigots if you don't like it. And the flip side to that, those of you that liked the show, that enjoyed it, have had people attacking you, calling you a moron, a woke idiot. I've had colleagues, peer reviewers of mine, getting death threats. And so whether you liked it, whether you disliked it, whether you're in the middle, wherever you landed on this show, there was a branch of the internet, the extreme wacko weirdos, that sucked all of the fun out of it. Because instead of normal people discussing the merits and the faults of the Acolyte, and maybe you make me like it a little bit more, or maybe I help you see maybe some of the stuff of why some of us aren't crazy about it, it just turns into this nasty flame war of insults, and everyone feels attacked, everyone feels beat up, and it's just exhausting. And that's not a fun conversation. That's not a fun show to discuss. Now, there's plenty of interaction, so I've been putting out a bunch of videos about it because I've had opinions about it and people want to hear my opinions about it. But I don't even want to read the comment section anymore because it's so nasty. And that's disheartening. Star Wars is one of these shows and franchises and sets of movies that most of us discovered when we were young. That it ignited our imaginations, took us off to a distant galaxy a long time ago. We got the costumes, we have fun. This Saturday, I'm going to take my son to go see a movie marathon of the original trilogy. A month ago, we went to see the prequels at a movie marathon, and we both dressed up like Jedi, and it was fun. It was this escape. It was this callback to like classic epic storytelling, hero with 1,000 faces, Joseph Campbell stuff, but with laser swords. It's all in there. It's timeless. It's universal. Children love it. And now it's bringing the worst out of us. Just like this nasty side to where all that youthful joy feels sucked out of it. And it's, if you love it, awesome. If you hate it, awesome. That's not the same thing as attacking people. And it's the attacking people. That's the toxicity. That's what sucks the joy out of it. Where the gaslighting, there's no valid criticism, you're just a bigot. Or you're a woke idiot if you like this show. All of that stuff. It's toxic. It ruins it for all the normal people. All of us normal people in the middle. Yeah, I liked it. I didn't like it. Fair enough. But that's not what we've gotten. And for whatever reason, The Acolyte is the show that's brought out so much of the crazies. It's like the microcosm of all the frustrations of the fandom all in this one show that has now come to a close. Today's video is brought to you by Factor. We are deep into the summer. Here in Texas, it's over 100 degrees every single day, and you can fuel up for those warm summer days with no prep, no mess meals from Factor. You can meet your wellness goals thanks to the menu of chef-crafted meals with options like Calorie Smart, Protein Plus, and Keto. I'm a high-protein, low-carb kind of guy, so I usually go for Keto or Protein Plus. Factor's fresh, never-frozen meals are dietitian-approved and ready to eat in just 2 minutes, so no matter how busy you are, you always have time to enjoy a nutritious, great-tasting meal. With 35 different meals and more than 60 add-ons to choose from every week, you'll always have new flavors to explore. I personally like to kick off my days with their protein shakes. Make your day delicious from breakfast to dessert. Stay fueled with easy, nutritious options. Head to factormeals.com/SeanChandler50 and use code SeanChandler50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month. That's code SeanChandler50 at factormeals.com/SeanChandler50 to get 50% off your first box plus 20% off your next month while your subscription is active. So, why didn't this season work for me? Well, as I said at the beginning, I think the writers knew the big ideas that they wanted to explore, but they simply didn't have an idea how to pull all that together into a cohesive story. They certainly didn't know how to make characters that felt believable and consistent, and then they used their runtime, their episode count, horribly. And so it felt like we spent way too much time just repeating things over and over again. where obviously we saw 2 flashback episodes of the same events. And as many people have said, it felt like that probably should have just been 1 episode. Put all that in 1 episode rather than 2. But we spent 2 episodes showing the same sets of events with just slight differences between the 2 of them. And then we had so many repetitious conversations of characters repeating things that the audience has already seen. We have seen these events from both perspectives. Now the characters from each side of the conversation are talking about it, and they're telling each other, thus saying it to us too, what we already know. So it just keeps repeating it and repeating it. So you get to the finale, and how many times did Soul go, I did what I thought was best. I did what I thought was best. And then so many times throughout the entire season, a character's about to say the really important thing that would reframe the other character's understanding. And instead of starting with the important thing, they keep, I did what I thought was right. I did what I thought was right. And then they say all the stuff we've already heard. And right as they're about to say the important thing that would change things, that might have allowed for the conversation to resolve this peacefully, something happens. They're interrupted. All throughout the whole season, this keeps happening. And so it just feels like we keep building up to the information, and then it doesn't happen. And by the time we get the information, it feels like, didn't we already know that? Didn't you already tell us that? You just keep repeating yourself over and over again. And this kind of ties into this other gigantic problem throughout the whole show, is that there's a big disconnect between what the characters know and what the audience knows. Or there's a gap between those two things where we're seeing it from all these different perspectives. We're seeing all the different conversations. We know a lot more than any individual in the show. But the show itself doesn't take a perspective, doesn't pick a side. So it just information dumps all of this stuff on us and repeats it over and over and over again. And then when we get to the resolution at the end, we don't know what any of it means. We don't know what you're trying to say because you didn't pick a side. You didn't give a perspective. So you're trying to do this. The bad aren't so bad. The good aren't so good. No one's fully one or the other. People can go both sides. Okay, gotcha. But your show has to have some perspective. If you want to actually say something, communicate an idea, you need a perspective. You need an idea that you're working towards. So you get to the end of it and you're like, what am I supposed to make of this? Because I don't think that Soul was the bad guy of the show. I'm not saying he didn't make bad choices. There wasn't some mistakes made. There were. But you're presenting it like the big emotional payoff, the big release at the end of the season to kind of like resolve the arc of the whole show. The Jedi messed up. The Jedi messed up 16 years ago is like the most likable character that seems the least corrupt, that seems to have the most pure motives. Maybe he acted poorly, but at no point in time do you think he's ever motivated by anger, malice, corruption, pursuit of power, anything like that. Maybe he's a little creepy because he's got an obsession with this young girl, but other than that, he seems pure in his motives, and the big payoff of the show is, yeah, he dies and he's the scapegoat. So us as the audience are like, I don't think he was the bad guy. I don't think he deserved any of that. Like, and it doesn't play it like this tragic moment. It plays it like, finally, he's accepted responsibility for what he did. He owned it. And there's a sense in which, yeah, it's good that he owned that he screwed up. That's good. But everyone else did something worse than him. Like, and even in the moment where he did something wrong and killed their mother, she was turning into a like smoke demon. She was turning May into a smoke demon. It was weird. Like, she was doing crazy stuff. And the show like never seems to acknowledge, like, it wants to both play it as like both giving us an explanation for why he did what he did to the audience. So the audience has that, but it never presents it to the other characters. Like, yeah, but May, you started a fire, you were asking for help, and then your mom turned into a demon and was disintegrating you. Like, that was weird. Like, you were disintegrating. I thought she was killing you. So I did what I thought I had to do to save you. Like, doesn't say the thing that you would, like, could resolve this. And so the show does this just bizarre thing to where the one likable character that seems to have pure motives and isn't corrupt, though made mistakes in the past in how something was handled, we're supposed to be like, yeah, he died. And then right after this, we have this resolution where the girls, it's like this aw shucks, like they're finally back together and they're on the same page. And tragically, they have to split up again. And May has to take the fall and have her mind wiped. And but, you know, they're where they're supposed to be. Wait, what? What? What are you talking about? She's a killer, he's a killer, she's a killer. Like, they're all killers. They basically did kind of a rehash of the Anakin arc of person, virgin to the Force, wants to be a Jedi, and then by the end of it, they're slaughtering Jedi or a Jedi. Like it's the Anakin arc, except it doesn't treat it like a tragedy. The story's not really being told from the perspective of the Sith. It's telling us kind of this neutral perspective leaning towards the Jedi, but it doesn't portray Osha turning into a cold-blooded killer, blinded by hate, being trained by a Sith as a tragedy. It plays it as like finally she's choosing to do what she wants to be. She's who she wants to be. Like, that's good for her. Like, she's back with her sister. She's got a boyfriend, and she's an independent woman doing what she wants. She killed her father figure without even fully understanding what was going on as an act of hate and rage. It's literally signified by her saber bleeding into red. This new thing that happens when she grabs a saber. Not what didn't happen to Anakin. Like, you see this, like, you're like, what are you communicating here? What am I supposed to take away from this? Because you didn't pick a perspective. It's like pretty obviously you're trying to show the corruption of the Jedi. Okay. But you also portrayed Solo as the one likable character, and it's not like you portrayed any of these other people as any better. Like, who am I supposed to care about? They're all awful. They're all corrupt. They're all murderers. Just awful, awful people. Who am I supposed to care about? Like, even the bad guys they're interesting and compelling, or there's something fascinating about them in original, prequels, likability, or just compelling in their ambitions. Here, like, I don't even know what anyone's goals are. I don't know what they're working towards. Their motivations change, their characterization changes, their personality changes based off what the moment requires. Like, how many times did Osha and May just seem like you have no idea what they're going to do? They're just utterly unpredictable because they just flip-flop sides based off what the scene requires. Or like the little runt thing, whatever his name is. Like, I don't even understand what was going on in this episode where he, like, sabotaged the ship. I don't know what that meant. I don't know why it happened. Why? And all the characters are written like that, just so inconsistent, so unpredictable. So you take a show, great concept, something I want to be excited about, and it's just all of this utter nonsense. So back to the wasted potential here. I've been excited to see a story set in a different time period. The appeal in my mind of showing the Jedi during the High Republic is showing the Jedi before they were utterly corrupt, set up for failure. We've already seen the prequels where there was some political corruption getting involved in things they probably weren't supposed to be a part of, leading to their downfall. We've seen the Clone Wars that really unpacks the Jedi turning into generals in a military, which was never their role. Thus, once again, their improper use leading to their downfall. We've seen all of that. We literally have spent 25 years showing the Jedi like that. So now we're going to show them 100 years before, when things were good. Instead of it being good, though, they're portrayed as the most corrupt, incompetent, and power-hungry they have ever been. And whereas the corruption, their ego, their downfall was always there in kind of the subtext sense of like they're portrayed as the heroes, but you can see the mistakes they're making, especially when you reevaluate it where things end. You notice the patterns. The subtext is gone here. It's no longer subtle. It's just on the nose. We're in the last 3 episodes, on multiple occasions, they have characters just like walk up to a Jedi and, you know, say such overt things to foreshadow the prequels and the downfall. Things that these characters couldn't possibly know, but us, once again, they're talking to the character, but they're like giving the audience an Easter egg, like, oh, that witch knows they're about to collapse. The witch knows they're on the path to the fall. Oh, this senator, oh, we thought he was corrupt, like he was the one trying to control them. Actually, he's the one trying to get them to be held accountable and not lead to their downfall. That guy that we thought was the corrupt politician, he's the one with pure motives, and it's actually the Jedi that are corrupt. Get it? See? If only they had listened, if only green girlfriend lady had listened to the senator guy and not been this corrupt cover-up person, maybe the fall wouldn't have happened. Like it's so on the nose, just stating it to the camera in a way that it's just frustrating. And you can take even some of the same ideas here of what if you tell this type of story and the Jedi are presented as heroes. They're like the organization, it's well-intentioned, it's respected, and our individual Jedi are of pure motives. And then we have green girlfriend lady that she's like we've known that Jedi can fall. Obviously, it can be corrupt. They can turn. So what if she's kind of the one that, because she's useful to them, because she is so politically savvy, she's helping for some good cause, for something that it's outside of what they would normally do, but it is for a good motive. It's a pure motive. Like if we can get a little bit more political support over here, we can overcome this big conflict over there. So you put green political lady in a position of power, and the audience knows that she's more corrupt than the other people realize. There's something not quite right there. And you have an organization that is overall good, individuals are good, but they let a little corruption and just a little bit of rot 100 years ago that starts the pattern. This is one person in the wrong place with too much power that starts a path. But you show the Jedi as the guardians of peace and justice, as the heroes in just one piece. That's interesting and compelling. If you do a show about the Jedi when things were the High Republic, it was good, it was functioning. By the way, it was never good. They were corrupt, they had cover-ups, they were selfish, they were trying to like groom people's kids and take their children, they were like cowards that would run away from planets and they'd want to go back to Coruscant, and all of them were liars, all of them had their secrets. What are we doing? Like, why are suddenly, this is the Jedi when things are supposed to be good, and you're presenting them at their absolute like worst. That's the wasted potential. I don't need another story about how they're the worst. That's what the prequels and Clone Wars are. That's why they fell. That's what we already have that. So the interesting thing is, what was the good version when it wasn't corrupt, when it wasn't political, when there weren't a bunch of cover-ups, and what's the thing, the one little drop? Like, I need to see this as actually different from the prequel era. What you showed me, it might be 100 years before, but it feels like it's 10 minutes before the Phantom Menace. Feels like it's a year before Phantom Menace. There's not enough like of a difference. So show me something different in the choice that was made that sets them on the path to the fall. That is interesting. Not, yeah, they've always sucked. That's discouraging. Like what? What are we doing? Was the opening crawl when it says they were the guardians of peace and justice, this is a lie? This is just a lie that it was never true? What are we doing? What are you doing? Yeah, a little frustrated by this one, as you might be able to tell. And maybe this show could have worked for me if the writers were just better. That the problem is, if you're not a good enough writer to write nuance and complexity, and you're trying to do that, it just comes off like a big mess. That like the conflict doesn't feel earned. You don't watch it and feel like this dread in your stomach at like watching these competing value sets and different perspectives. And you're like, oh no, please stop heading down this path. You don't feel that watching this show. Instead, you're like, oh, this is frustrating. That doesn't make any sense. Wait, no, that's the excuse? That's your rationale? Oh, they just changed sides? And like the first half of the season, our main villain is this guy just slaughtering Jedi left and right. And then he just stops doing that in the back half, and we try and make him more likable and reasonable. Like, characters just change. I don't know. It's all that just bad writing, inconsistent characters. Nothing feels earned. Everything feels like, wait, that's it? That's all you got for me? And unsatisfying. And I don't know what even they're trying to communicate, because I don't think they knew what they were trying to communicate. It's just this muddled morality, muddled different points of view. Yeah, it's different points of view. See, it's complex. It's nuanced because it's different points of view. But you still need a point of view. You still need a perspective. You still need to have an idea. You have to know what you're trying to say. You're trying to communicate through showing different perspectives. It's not there. There's nothing there. And I don't know. Yeah, just frustrating. I guess to touch on a couple of other things I'm sure everyone wants to talk about. They throw in Darth Plagueis in a cave. Like before it started, I was like joking with my kids. Who do you think's going to be Plagueis? What's the twist going to be? How are they going to like tie it in? They're going to do something. Of course he's going to show up because they're just teasing all these things that tie into what he learned that he passed down to Palpatine. How are they going to do it? A hand comes out of a cave. What is that even implying? Like he learned all of this from them? He's just stalking in the background. Like, what are you doing? What is this? And then the last shot of the season is the back of Yoda's head. What am I? Oh, Yoda! Yoda was alive 100 years ago. Oh yeah, I already knew that because he's a lot older than that. Like, we know how old he was when he died. Like, what are you doing? Like, what is this supposed to mean other than, remember him? Look, it's Yoda. Look, Yoda was a Jedi. Yeah, I know. You literally no purpose in doing this other than to like show the back of his head. And even by doing that, you immediately make us go, wait, Yoda can't detect the deception in her, that she's like overtly lying, that she's covering up this thing, like she's super corrupt. Like, what? Oh, so now Yoda sucks too. You threw him in there just to, I mean, by implication, you could piece it together that he should have known that something fishy was going on with all of this. But now you have an actual scene with the two of them, which I got to tell you something. And it's all lies. It's all corruption. And he didn't know. So that means Yoda's incompetent. Thanks to the Acolyte. What are you doing? So, yeah, just such a frustrating show because on paper, it's the right direction. In execution, a total misfire for me. Just totally dropped the ball, frustrating, disappointment, and disheartening in the way that it did all of it. Anyway, you can check out my other Star Wars content right over here. Let me know your thoughts down below, and keep talking movies and TV too much.